Hey guys, how's it going? So today's video is going to be a little more chilled. No adventures, no gymming, no workouts, no clues of what to eat. Unfortunately, it's going to be quite a static one. I'm just going to be answering a few of the questions I've gotten recently in the past week or two, and hopefully I can answer it better on video. It's so much more interactive. And first of all, huge apology. I've got builders in the house. They're destroying my kitchen in the hopes of creating a utopia. I'm kind of skeptical, but fingers crossed it works out okay, because right now it sounds like hell is being torn up there. So if you can't hear me, I'm really sorry. I can write down a transcript in the comments. I can rewrite any of the questions I answer. So just ask away and I can do that for you. I'm really sorry about this, and I will get a microphone. I'm useless. So let's get on with the questions. The first question I got was what to eat after being ill or being sick. I'm assuming this is kind of like a stomach bug or even just a cold or flu. I'll go through all of them. So there's actually a really good rule for stomach bugs, and it's not even a fitness one, it's just a mainstream one. It's called BRAT, and I think it's like, basically it kind of represents the soft food, so it's like bananas, rice, apples, toast sort of thing. So in other words, very simple foods. I wouldn't worry about your macros or your calories when you're just recovering from sickness. That's the last thing you want to be prioritizing. You want to be prioritizing your health. So in this instance, stick to simple foods you can actually stomach down and wait until you actually can eat. That's kind of basic overview. If you wanted to look after your health and fill your body with micronutrients and plentiful macros even when you're sick, it's still quite a hard task, but things I'd recommend are green juices and green smoothies. Really good for getting vitamins and minerals and micronutrients in. If you're feeling a bit sicky and you can't keep anything down, you just need a sip of something to give you a bit more energy and keep you perky. I always have one when I'm slowly getting out of illness mode and starting to recover and get more energy and zest back in me again. Another really good one, chicken bone broth soup. Even without the bone broth, just chicken soup. It's food for the soul, as they say. It's insane. You can make it taste so good, and it's just full of micronutrients as well as basic needs for your protein, fats and carbohydrates, which you're going to be really needing after having such a heavy toll on your stomach and your nutrition intake. So I would recommend starting small. Don't try and count your macros and go doing heavy squats straight after being ill. That's not how to do it. You work your way up nice and slowly. So simple foods, like carbs as well, simple carbs like pasta, rice. You can get gluten-free versions if it irritates your bowel, which might actually help after being a bit sicky. You can have sweet potato or potato. These kind of softer foods, less spicy foods, really help you just getting used to the idea of eating again. When it comes to fever and colds, there is a saying for colds and fevers where it's like, feed a cold, starve a fever, but I just feed myself anyway. I'm one of those people that when I get ill, it doesn't matter what the illness is, it doesn't matter what the recommendation is, I will eat out of pure self-pity and misery in my bed. I'll find anything to eat. I'll find an excuse to make some healthy treats, and I'll be like, oh yeah, it's good for my body, it needs extra calories because my hypothalamus is working, some bullcrap excuse like that. Don't do that. Really tune into your body. See if you are hungry, see if you aren't. There is, I guess, some truth in the fact that yes, your body is working harder to fight off this illness, so maybe it's kind of better to leave it be. But that doesn't mean starve yourself purposefully. It just means if you're not hungry and you really don't want to eat, don't force yourself. But once you do get your appetite back, definitely feed it with good, healthy, nutritious foods. Don't start thinking, oh, I can just have a pizza now. As much as your food only recognises macros and the like, I think it really accelerates your recovery process when you consider healthling foods with a lot of micronutrients. Obviously you can eat whatever you want, there is no food that is obviously evil or bad, but I'm just thinking for the sake of your recovery, it's best to go down the healthy hippie route for a few days, and then you can count your macros and fit in that Pop-Tart whenever you want, if you're basic like that. I'm joking, but you can do that if you want. So those are my recommendations. Simple, healthy, wait till you're hungry, and be very easy on yourself. Don't start training madly. Be mindful of where your body and your mind is at, because sometimes being in illness can make you feel a bit weird and make you even start getting into a bit of withdrawal symptoms of not being exercising. I have that, and that can be a challenge in itself. So just be very mindful, be very kind to yourself, and then once you've fully recovered, then you can start worrying about the more scientific side of nutrition and training. So the next question is quite a complex one. I'll do my best to answer it okay-ishly. that's the word right. It is, do women find it harder to lose fat? And I've been obsessed with the topic lately. I have absolutely loved listening to podcasts and podcast interviews by, say, Lyle McDonald, who is an absolute expert in this field. Also, people who I really admire are Ben Bruno and Brett Contreras, and they really know their stuff when it comes to training women and giving them the right techniques to lose fat and build muscle, because it is harder for women, unfortunately, guys. We have both the blessing and the curse of being the child bearers of the human race, which means on an evolutionary standpoint, we actually are more precious than men. Sorry, guys. Because essentially the theory is men can essentially procreate with a woman and just go off on their merry own way, whereas women have to stay and look after the child because it basically is at the cost of the human race, and then she has to forbear more children and carry on this proceed, etc, etc. So in that instance, this is one of the reasons why we hold on to fat more. It's an evolutionary standpoint, where we need to, in times of famine, we need to be able to hold on to the fat that we have so we can survive. It's actually been recorded loads of times that men actually tend to die off quicker in famines and starvations, just because they don't have as much fat in their body, so that their body's not utilising their fat for energy and therefore staying alive, whereas women tend to live on for a bit longer in those instances. It's obviously not, it's a very morbid comparison and situation to talk about, but in that instance it just goes to show, and it really emphasises the fact that women do have extra fat on us. It's a biological instance, and it can be harder for some reasons, because one, often we are lighter, we are smaller. I mean, obviously I'm very tall and muscular, so there's no exceptions, but in general, we are taller and lighter, so our TDE, aka our total daily energy expenditure, is going to be less, because we have less muscle mass. We might not exercise as much as men. Women might, I'm not talking about the general fitness population here, I'm talking about women who are getting into training. They might not instinctively think, oh, that lifting heavy and eating more protein is the way to go. Instead, there is still that myth there that more cardio and like more carbs is sort of the answer, which isn't necessarily true at all. In fact, I don't think it's the optimal method for women at all, and they tend to go with that rather than doing the more scientifically proven, evidence-based method of losing fat, which is, as I said, lifting heavy, eating protein, and being in a calorie deficit. And also with a calorie deficit, that also places more stress on women, because their body kind of thinks, oh god, we're in a calorie deficit, which basically doesn't make you hold on to fat. The starvation mode thing is a myth, but with women there is a tendency to hold on to water weight. So you might be on a calorie deficit, but you don't see results for like 10 weeks because your body is essentially under a huge amount of stress in the calorie deficit, and it's sort of there's a metabolic adaptation in that, where you actually tend to hold on to water weight and it looks like you're not losing fat and you're plateauing. Then you have the menstrual cycle, where there's different hormones, and with progesterone, there is evidence that suggests that you get a bit of insulin resistance, so you tend to be less better at metabolizing carbs. So all these difficulties, in short, make it kind of hard for women to tackle the idea of getting in a calorie deficit and lifting heavy and eating protein. Because first of all, it's not, we've always been taught and given so much bad advice from magazines that you shouldn't do that, it makes you bulky, which is nonsense. I mean, there are obviously some women who have higher testosterone levels than others, so they might prefer to have a different sort of training and diet, which is absolutely fine. But for the most part, women cannot have the same amount of testosterone as men and grow the same amount of muscle in the same amount of time unless they're on steroids. It's really, really, really hard. Like, I've been training for a couple of years properly with weights, and I don't look like I don't really look like I lift. In some ways I do, some ways I don't. But like, I don't look like I lift a lot, but I do. And there's really nothing to worry about in that instance, and I promise you the best approach is a long-term approach for women, because it takes a long time, because your body goes through fluctuations through your hormones, your menstrual cycles, through water retention because of the calorie deficit. Sometimes women might need a bit more refeeds because of this whole hormonal issue with the calories, and that comes into play. So when I have women clients, it really is not as simple as me giving them a set amount of calories and a set training program. It really isn't. You have to be very specific, you have to be very individual, and you have to realise, yes, it is harder in general for women to get lean. I'd say once you get down to the 18 to 22% of body fat, it's fine to get to women, that's fine. But if, say, you are competing, or you basically want to raise your physique up to the next level, it does get trickier. And in general, I think on an anecdotal level, I've heard women and men say, oh yeah, it's always harder for women and more easy for men, but women, it's not necessarily your fault necessarily if you have a hard time gaining weight, because you do have these factors coming into play. So what I would suggest is, know your cravings, make healthy protein filled alternatives for them. know when you start craving things on your menstrual cycle and why, and have alternatives to kind of fight back. And most importantly, start lifting weights and eating more protein. I promise you, this is so good for you on so many levels, and you'll start getting really lean, and you'll start losing body fat, and you'll start feeling more confident in yourself. You're getting stronger, you're getting fitter, and you have to give it time. These magazines that say you have to have only a few weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, even 12 weeks, it's still not that long time. When I have clients, I intend to have them full for a long time so they can go away and not need me ever again. They learn something from me. I don't want to have like a little package deal with them, because often if they don't learn anything, they'll go away and get back into their bad habits. Not what I want. So it should be at the very least 12 weeks for cutting for women. I would say even more than that. I mean, right now, even though it's winter, I always start in winter time, because my body reacts very slowly to recomp, and I'm recomping my body, and I want to get very lean. And I know it's going to be quite hard because of the aforementioned reasons, but I have all the techniques to try and fight that, so I'm prepared. But I'm starting now, and I'm not intending to stop for like another 20 weeks, obviously for Christmas and stuff, and my birthday's in January, so I'll be a bit more lenient. But still, you know, I have that time frame, and I'm giving myself that time frame because I know it's the most sustainable and best way to lose fat. So make sure you have a deadline that is far away. Don't suddenly think days before your holiday, oh god, I need to diet, it's not going to work. Especially for women, like I find women do need longer, because their bodies react to all sorts of things. Like a man's hormone level in the month or years, it might fluctuate a tiny bit. Most parts like a straight line, but women, it can change every week. So you have that fighting against you, but there are some benefits and some disadvantages. And if you wanted to work on fat loss, and if you are a woman and you're a bit stuck, then I would love to take you on as a client. So just contact me. So next question. That was a complicated question. I mean, it's so complicated. That was just touching the surface of it. But if you wanted to know more, just contact me, ask me any questions. I'm happy to help. Lost motivation, what to do? This is a really good question, because motivation comes and goes. So it's very natural to lose motivation. I lose motivation. Everyone loses motivation. It's a very human thing. I wouldn't worry about it at all. What you should do is set concrete goals, because with those concrete goals, then you'll be able to actually see how you're progressing in the gym and in your diet. If you're losing weight, if you're stagnating, if you're gaining weight, if you're gaining muscle, etc. Whatever your goals are. You have your goals and you have little milestones, and you want to reach those little milestones to get to the top milestone, your ultimate goal. I like to use goal pyramids, where I have like my daily tasks to get my little goals there, and then it gets onto like weekly tasks, which are more encompassing, say hitting my weekly calories. Monthly tasks might be being able to lift a bit more, getting a PB on my deadlift or something, and then my like yearly goals or my long-term goals might be more physique related, and then I can see the little tasks and actions I have to do to get to that number one big goal. It helps me visualize things very clearly, so I can actually do these things, and I don't, even if I lose motivation, even if I think, oh my god, I don't feel like it, I know that right, Thursday I said I'm going to train and eat this amount of calories and protein, carbs, fat. I'm going to do it because that's what it says on my goals list, and it's easier said than done, and it does take a lot of practice. I feel like willpower is a muscle in itself that you have to train, but once you get into a routine and a habit and rely on your goals and your tasks and almost like scheduling everything almost like work or appointments, you don't need to rely a lot on motivation. I think you still need to have very exciting goals to actually get up in bed, be excited for life, and think, wow, today's going to be an adventure and I'm going to nail it. That's really important, to have passion for that. But when that passion dwindles, which is very natural, because like I said, we're all human, it's also important to have the objective goals, to have the data backing up your progress, and then you're going to feel more motivated because you see, actually I am making progress and I'm going to do what this says because I know it's going to get to my end goal there. So that's what I would suggest if you're losing motivation. You have the final question, which is how to tone up XYZ area. I just said XYZ for the sake of it, but this person asked me specifically stomach and arms. There is no spot reduction training. You can't just do sit-ups and get a flat stomach. I'm sure you've heard of this. You have to have a very good diet, have very good macros reached. You have to train well. You have to be progressing in your training. And also you have to be consistent. This doesn't happen overnight, this takes time, and so the reason why you're not seeing results now is because that might be an area where you lose fat last, because we do have trouble spots. And in linking with my last question, with my other question about women finding it harder, there is a link between stubborn fat loss and women finding it harder to lose fat, and they do indeed, because they have more of this thing called alpha 2 receptors, which essentially inhibit fat burning. And they basically, it's complicated, the science is there, and it's easy for you to look up online. I'm probably going to get this wrong, so apologies, but essentially what it does, it inhibits blood flow to the areas, so there's less fat breakdown in the areas. So for instance, I always have my weight on my hips, thighs, butt, which most women do. For stubborn fat, the fat that just cannot go, even if you try and try, it will go eventually, but it takes a long time. But it's one of those like, oh my god, why won't it go? And it's because there's a lack of blood flow to the area, and women carry twice as much alpha 2 receptors as men. And men tend to carry it in their like lower stomach, that's why I get like a pot belly thing. And so with this, it is harder, and it basically means that in those areas, whilst you can't spot reduce them, you can help instill blood flow to the area by keeping perhaps low insulin, which might mean intermittent fasting, which might mean lower carbs, which also might mean releasing certain chemicals into the area by a high intensity training. All these things can really help. It's all about finding the routine that's good for you, being consistent, having a good diet, and also, if you need to, increasing blood flow through those methods if it kind of helps speed along the process. It only works, those methods, if you are in a calorie deficit, but they have been shown to help improve blood flow and therefore help increase the fat loss when there is a calorie deficit in those areas, specifically if you have problems losing weight there. But like I said, if you have any questions about losing weight in certain areas, certain exercises to help you gain muscle in those areas, just ask me a question and I can give you all the advice for that. Right, that was a really good Q&A. Thanks guys. It was only 4 questions, but I've rambled on for so long. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you have any more questions, I would love to answer them. I think I had some questions about GMOs and like, is there such thing as organic food? Now they're quite hotly contested topics, so I want to do some more research. Well, I already know my stance scientifically, I already know the stance, but I want to be able to give you guys a good video explaining why, so I'll be doing more research before I present that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any more questions about anything, just contact me. I'm on social media, I'm on here, and I can't wait to hear from you guys. See you later.
Trample over beauty while singing the thoughts. I match them with my euphoria. When they said je suis plus folle que toi, but I'm actually good. Can't help it if we're tilted. I am actually good. Can't help it if I am actually good. Can't help it if we're tilted. I am actually simple moitié, on compte à demi-demi. Pile sur un des bas-côtés comme des origamis. Le bras tendu pareil cassé, tout n'est qu'épié et clié. Ces enfants bizarres, crachés dehors comme par hasard, cachant l'effort dans le griffoir. Et une creepy song en